take your time when hiring a property management company is the most critical piece to your business, because they're the ones dealing directly with your customer and your client, and they're the ones that's going to collect the money and operate on your behalf. Listen, I so appreciate you guys leaving comments in the comment section, so much so that I'm actually shooting a video today based on one of the comments that was left behind about how do you identify what's a good property management company to use. So shout out to Ja In Ro. I hope I got that right. All right, subscriber, appreciate you leaving a comment. This one's for you. So how do you go out and find a good property management company, right? The number one question everybody want to know as it pertains to hiring property managers. Well, you got to hire some bad ones in order to find some good ones, been my experience. But I can give you guys some key factors to look at that can help you to possibly maneuver around having to hire too many bad ones in the process of finding a good one, okay? Now, it's so interesting because there's certain qualifying questions that I like to ask all property management companies, okay? So take a note of these. Number one, I want to know what's their retention rate, right? So based on the amount of doors that they manage, I want to know like what the occupancy is, right? What's their vacancy rate? I want to know what's their retention rate. How long have people stayed in said units? That's important to me because retention is probably one of the best metrics that you can look at, because it costs you money every time you go get a new tenant, right? You got to do some type of cosmetic renovation to the property. Like there's some energy, some resources that has to go into the process of getting a new tenant. So your best tenant is the one that you can retain, okay? I want to know what's their maintenance costs, right? So property management companies typically are vertically integrated to where they got in-house maintenance people that they send over to do the work on your property. Well, not only do you have labor costs, but you got material costs as well. So you can ask a property management company, like, what's your surcharge on, like, what's your markup on material? What's your cost of labor? They should be able to transparently tell you that, unless they tremendously trying to gouge you. And then obviously you want to stay away from those folks. I would ask them, what do they do to incentivize retention? What are the things that they do to reward good tenants? It's so important because at the end of the day, your tenant is the one taking care of you by way of paying your mortgage and taking care of your lifestyle. So at the very least, we should be taking care of them, right? So like around Christmas, we always do special things for those tenants that are exceptional, whether it be gift cards, some type of discount on their rent, whatever we get creative, right, from year to year. It's so important because those tenants, especially if you're in an apartment building or a multifamily of some sort, they're keeping eyes on everybody else. You can start to empower people in that process that become your allies that further help you be more successful as an investor. So even with all those questions and depending on the answers, nothing's still bulletproof. But most people don't even lead in with those particular questions that give you a good foot in the door. At least this way, you're not just out there doing business with any and everybody. When you finally, log in for the first time, as I will call it, right? You do the property management agreement. You finally now immersed into their environment. That's when you really start to figure everything out. So I was buying this 136 unit apartment building, and I was online scouring the internet looking for property management company because it wasn't in a primary market that I invested in. But as I may or may not have mentioned, right, the core fundamentals of how I run my business is remote investing. Myself, all of our students, that's how we invest remotely. So I found this great deal in a market that I was unfamiliar with, got familiar with the market, analyzed the deal, started looking for property management companies in that area. So I went through this interview process. Some of the companies, they were managing like 8,000 to 10,000 doors. Although I was buying 136 units, that's like a very small fraction of what they manage, right? So I didn't want my asset to get kind of lost in the shuffle. So I was looking for a more medium-sized company that had a couple thousand doors to manage this 136 units. And that's another piece. If you got a single family house, you need to consider who's managing your property, because you don't probably want the person that's only managing 10, right? Because maybe they're not that sophisticated. They don't have systems and good processes in place to give you the transparency that you need. But you certainly don't want the one that's got 10,000 doors, because then, you're not that important. Let's just call it what it is. So it's important when you're out there that you're looking for, particular companies that fit the right size and makeup based on the type of asset that you're buying. So I found this company, really hit it off with the guy. I actually flew in town and went and met with him in person and just wanted to understand the makeup of his team. He bought all his different resources there, some of his maintenance people. We did lunch. We got knee to knee. Like, everybody don't have to do that. I prefer to do that to really get a sense of who people are. Everything started out great. Okay. Now, I didn't end up closing that transaction. I ended up buying, that deal ended up falling through, but ended up buying like another 40 unit, and it was a 6 unit. And I bought the 6 unit first before the 40 unit. Well, they were doing a horrible job on the 6 unit. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. They didn't have as much bandwidth. The bulk of their business was in a certain area. And although they had reach to the area where the 6 unit was at, they didn't fully disclose that they had a lack of resources in that area. So he was trying to maneuver between the resources he had on hand, but it was to my detriment. So maintenance calls, service calls from some of the tenants was starting to lag and be put off. And it wasn't because he didn't want to do it. It was just because he didn't have the bandwidth. And so tenants that are upset don't pay. Okay, that's how that works. And so that's why understanding the capacity of the property management company is so important. So fast forward, I'm like, listen, I just called him out on it. I'm like, I got resources in the area. If you want to utilize some of my resources and you just manage the whole process, I'm good with that. Like, it's about team, right? You gotta, what's the greater good? What's the ultimate goal we're trying to achieve? And so the guy was a good guy. I knew he was, honestly trying the best that he could. If I had some additional resources to help him, then I would. Well, I put those additional resources with him, and they had to fall under the umbrella and the structure of how their property management company worked. They just so happened to have been a nationwide franchise company that has certain guidelines by the way that they operated. Okay. And nothing wrong with that, but there's something wrong with that then when you bring in outside resources that don't necessarily abide by and identify with your payment methods, your time of payment, and all those certain things. It started to cause some friction. Make a long story short, we tried to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. It didn't work. While I appreciated the company and their integrity and some of the systems that they had in place, they just lacked the bandwidth to fully service me as I needed to be serviced and how I wanted the culture of my business to be as it pertains to my tenants and all the rest of it. And so thankfully that 6 unit was a good test run for me to figure that out before I gave them the keys to the 40 unit. So it was really crazy how it all played out. But the particular area of where I was buying my deals, the guy realized just how much of a bad job that he was doing, that he found somebody else that had a good infrastructure in that area. And he ended up building a bridge to introduce all of his clients who wanted to this other company. And I've been with this company for almost 3 years now. They're a phenomenal company. They were very similar in nature in terms of integrity, culture, and they aren't franchise models. So they able to operate a little bit differently. They can do a lot more things that I may want them to do, like give me, certain reports on a certain time interval. I meet with the owner and the regional manager on a monthly interval. It's just certain things, a certain cadence that I want as an owner that makes me feel better about having a pulse on my business and how I want it to run. And they're able to come alongside of me and help me achieve those goals. So, I hope that answers the question. I think if you go back to the beginning of this video and make sure you write down those qualifying questions that I gave you, right? Those are very good on the lead in, because if people are fumbling answering those questions, then they're not even close to being a candidate. Once they can at least answer and articulate those questions, and that makes sense, then you go to the next step of potentially giving them something to manage, okay? But then and only then. If you go out here and you start just defaulting into doing business with people that say that they can fill up your properties, it's an accident waiting to happen somewhere. I'm telling you, take your time when hiring a property management company is the most critical piece to your business, because they're the ones dealing directly with your customer and your client, and they're the ones that's going to collect the money and operate on your behalf. So it needs to be somebody that aligns with you culturally, morally, ethically, and that has the type of infrastructure in a business to give you the transparency and the visibility that you need to make you feel good as an owner, even if you're doing it from afar. All right. If this video was helpful, all I ask is that you like, comment, share, and lastly, subscribe. Click that notification bell so that you know when I'm bringing more content to you guys like this. And please keep sending those comments, because I want to answer those questions for you and shoot more videos that speak specifically to the issues that you have.